Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on episode 2, season 6. I got that right. Episode 2, season 6 of the Sound Off with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, the season's officially underway with the first 2 matches in Las Vegas all done and dusted. Unfortunately, the Warriors getting soundly defeated. But we did actually have quite an interesting match between the Panthers and Sharks. How are you, and what did you think of the Vegas kickoff?
I loved Vegas up until about 20 minutes into our game, and I could see it the way it was going to play out. But no, it was. Other than that, it was good. It's obviously a cool looking event. Not quite a sellout. I don't think. Was it 40-something thousand?
Yeah, I think I got the numbers in our news section, but yeah, it's around that.
Yeah. See, Simon's here. I want to look down the camera, Simon. Last week you predicted Panthers versus Raiders grand final, and I laughed. Not only did I laugh, I doubled down and tipped the Warriors to beat them. And I've got to serve myself humble pie when it's called for. So, congratulations, Simon. Your team was awesome on the weekend.
Yes. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week. We'll then review the 2 NRL Las Vegas matches. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well as questions for each other. But let's face it, we'll answer your questions all the way through because we never stick to it. And then we'll preview the rest of round 1 and discuss who we're picking. I had to go remember because I did my picks last week, obviously, and I couldn't remember who I picked. And I made some doozies that are going to cost me, I think. But
we'll see.
Remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into the stories, mate.
Yep, sounds good.
The first whole page of news is all Vegas. So we'll start with the numbers that you asked about. So 45,209 fans attended the Vegas weekend, just under 5,000 more than last year. I think there was some metrics today coming out about viewers, and they reckon they had around 370,000 American viewers for the Warriors-Raiders game. And then it dipped off after that because who else do you want to watch other than the Raiders and the Warriors, I guess?
Well, they thought it was they thought it was NFL with the Raiders.
Yeah, they thought the Las Vegas Raiders were playing some new team. But yeah, that's good. It is better to see it go up, even if it's slight, and then go down. So
yeah,
Peter V'landys also spoke to the Sydney Morning Herald about it and deemed the event a success and said, watch NRL, which is the platform Americans can watch NRL on. It has gone up 87% in the US, and although it's a small base, it's massive growth nonetheless. And while they have no delusions of being the NFL or NBA, they believe they can break into the US market. We'll still see on that. I like the optimism, but I have always felt that Americans only watch sport they either invented or know they're good at. So we'll see what happens there. But 87% up is a good direction. They also said they expect to make a small profit from this one. They lost roughly $1 million last year, and they believe they've made profit this time, which is good when you think of all the expense to send everyone over and whatnot. Next one, I will get to you, I promise.
You're good. Go hard.
He did admit that 4 games in Vegas was probably too much, which is something Paul mentioned last week, with plenty of people leaving before or during the Panthers-Sharks match. And they're looking at reportedly cutting the women's match from the 2026 event. Sounds like they want the 2 NRL games in the Super League. And part of this was due to the fans not being permitted pass outs from the stadium, meaning they had to stay within the stadium for 9 hours. That's a decision the stadium makes, not the NRL. So once you're in, you can't leave. And then we got 3 more. Ivan Cleary said he believes the World Club Challenge should be added to the Vegas event. Kind of made sense this year because you had the 2 champions over there playing in different games. But yeah, his quote is, I think it's a part of rugby league that needs to survive. It's difficult, but it's worth trying to make it happen. And then last 2 before I bring you in. Tyler Manoa, the Las Vegas Raiders rookie, that blew the Raiders' horn before the Raiders came out, was reportedly tasered and arrested after damaging a restroom. So he was with rugby league for just a little bit, and he already got the disease, mate. And then last one, following that on, Warriors assistant coach Richie Agar has allegedly grabbed a UK journalist by the throat on his way through the press box. The NRL Warriors have both stated that they will investigate the incident, and we were looking at the CCTV footage. Agar is adamant that the footage will clear him. I've listened to some stuff from journalists that were in the room, and they all seem to concur that what they said happened, but we'll see. So I just threw you a whole book worth of crap there, mate. Go for it.
What do you want me to add to that?
I basically like, well, we're taking the game to Vegas. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I guess the success of the event. Did you think it was a good success and decent crowd? And what 3 games would you take if 3 is the number?
I think it's similar sort of level to last year. It's good that they're going to make a slight profit if their projections are correct. But I would definitely be cutting off that women's match because that was just a non-event mismatch. That was always going to happen. So I don't see the point of having that match scheduled there unless it's going to be a competitive one. And I don't think anybody saw that one being competitive.
No, and Paul said he thinks it should be played the games over 2 days. I think if they want 4, I think the Saturday, Sunday, America would be the way. They'd try to. It would have to be Friday, Saturday, because Sunday is Monday in New Zealand and Australia. I don't know. But I don't know if that's a cost thing. It might cost more to have the stadium for 2 days. I don't know. They seem to have the run of the stadium all week if you looked at all the socials, so I'm not sure. But if they want the 4, I think you'd stagger it and have the NRL game, the last game on each day. And then your Super League game and your women's game. I like the idea of the World Club Challenge being there, but I understand they want to give fans time to work out, and you don't really know, so it's hard to plan. I think it might have been Vossi. It was someone on a podcast this week was talking about you can pick your teams that are going next year now. The NRL can. You don't have to say who's playing who, but you could pick 4 teams and then have like an alternate. So if one of your 4 that you pick ends up winning the grand final, that alternate comes in to take their place. That other team's still going to Vegas. It still seems messy, but I'm sure there's a way. But we'll see. I think, focus back on the 3 games for now and build momentum, and then maybe I think expanding to 4 straight after 2 was probably a bit too far a reach. Especially if you want to look at it without any fans bias, there were 4 games and there was only 1 competitive one.
Yeah.
So, Plus, you're also introducing 2 new competitions at the same time as well. I mean, it's like, okay, let's expand it for the sake of it and try and include as much as possible, rather than okay, what do we want it to look like in 5 years' time, and grow towards that, which is what I think they should be doing personally. Yeah.
And I think Vossi talked about the World Club Challenge as a good one for Americans because you can say it's the World Series of rugby league.
Yeah.
It's the best Southern Hemisphere team against the best Northern Hemisphere team. That's something they understand. Admittedly, when they do a World Series, it's usually between LA and, somewhere else in America. But they get that's their concept, the world champion as such.
And you can also sell it as being the most important game of rugby in league, and you're getting it. We all know it's not, but you can sell it that way, and say that you've got the best game there is possible here.
Yeah.
So it's also a good sales pitch.
Yeah, and then I guess before we move on, Richie, your thoughts on the Naughty Boys, the NFL player and the assistant coach.
I'll focus on the assistant coach. Yeah, I don't know. It's he said, she said at the moment, isn't it? He's adamant the footage will clear him. If he went after somebody, there has to be some kind of reason for it. There had to have been some kind of altercation for this to even be a story. So, hopefully it's just a storm in a teacup kind of stuff, and it goes away.
Paul might be able to talk about this a bit more because he's actually the only one of us that has done this before. But it's an interesting setup at this stadium. The press box, the coaches have to walk through the middle of the press box to go to their coaching thing. So at halftime, all the coaches had to go through the middle of the media. You've been in these little boxes, admittedly a very smaller scale compared to what they would have been in, I imagine. But is that have you encountered something like that before, where like the players and coaches have to walk through all the media while a game's in play to get to the coach's box?
Everyone I've been to, and I mean, including kind of, I've done sort of Black Ferns games, I've done NPC kind of finals, and sort of, I guess, at the bigger end. And in those ones now, you always the press box is always generally on like the fifth floor, and your floor's away. You're nowhere near the actual tunnel, and you're definitely not at ground level. No.
Yeah. I'm not saying that to defend anything that may or may not have happened. It's just a weird situation. But yeah, we may have more news next week, or maybe even the week after, depending on how long the NRL takes.
Putting your hands on is just that's just wrong, and it's got to be a pretty serious ban for my mind. If he's done what's if he's put his hands on somebody, words fine, but hands. Yes, it's a stressful situation. Yes, someone's trying to stop you when you're actually trying to do your job. Will be his argument. But you don't put your hands on somebody, especially if it's like that.
Yeah. So we'll wait until the NRL's done their investigation. We actually find out more. So we'll move on, mate. I promise there's not too much news this time. The Roosters have denied reports that they're looking at moving Spencer Leniu on, and have stated that they've actually promoted him into the leadership group. So there was a lot of noise there. Apparently he isn't happy at the Roosters and wanted to go home to the Panthers, which isn't that surprising when the Roosters aren't going that well and the Panthers are doing what the Panthers are doing. But yeah, they've pushed it all out of the way. It is a rumor that keeps popping up though. But do you reckon he'll see out the year, or will he magically just end up back at Penrith?
I don't know. Surely not. I mean, he's only just had his first season there last year, and I mean, I could see the angle where he'd missed Penrith. He's got a lot of good mates there. They have a lot of success, but no, I think he'll stay there. They'll do what they can to keep him, especially since they've lost people in their front row stocks as well. Quite influential people too, Warrior Hargraves, etc. So
I think even if I feel like if it was true or is true, and it would be like the Ben Hunt situation. He might be miserable, but they ain't letting him go because they can't afford to have him gone. So but now they seem to have brushed it under the carpet. But if it pops up again, we'll talk about it. Next one, I'm going to probably butcher the names, but Adam Chanel, I think it's meant to be, and Marcus Diaker won the NRL Combine in Vegas. So in the Vegas event, they're doing an NRL Combine to try to find Yankee Doodles that may want to play the sport. So they won it. I don't know what means by winning it, but they will be moving to Australia to begin training for an NRL contract. So I don't have much more information other than their names. We don't get to see the footage of the combine. But yeah, thoughts on that? Do you think they might be our first fully fledged Americans that can crack it?
I didn't even know it was a thing until I saw you put it in the news. So, yeah.
It has to be one of us that pays attention, mate.
No, probably not, Brad. Not above people who have grown up playing the game all their life, but they're obviously athletic enough to warrant bringing them over here for that. So a little bit interesting.
Be cool. We'll see what happens. I see Simon said he thinks some of the Las Vegas stuff was on YouTube. Yeah, I did see some. I just didn't see anything to do with the combine. I saw some of the nines and some of the America-Greece game, which probably ruined the chances of America wanting to watch league because Greece smoked the Americans. But yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Next one, Millie Elliott, mate. Maybe the last time we talk about it this season.
So just before you do your stalking, so Adam Chanel is it comes from the US Olympics sevens program. So he's played rugby union.
Okay, yeah.
And Marcus Darcy again is also from the Canadian rugby union. So they both played union, which I know it's not automatic crossover. But it's not like going from basketball or something.
Yeah, it's a shorter hurdle to climb for them.
Shorter hurdle to climb.
Shorter hurdle.
To jump. You don't climb hurdles.
You've never seen me try to do hurdles, Paul. So yeah, Millie Elliott, stalking session, I guess. She is stepping away from rugby league for at least 12 months after announcing her pregnancy. In the weekend. Thank you, Richie and Ruin Hammer, for letting me know. Congrats to her and Adam, and she will be a massive loss for the Roosters 2025 campaign. Obvious reasons.
And from your heart as well.
I got the Warriors NRL team, NRLW team to care about. But yeah. And Simon said NRL should be allowed to have an American on the books. It doesn't affect their salary cap. I think that is what they're looking at doing, but it's, I guess, finding how you give a free player to a team where it's not considered unfair. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I guess in their ideal world, they could do it and find 17 pearls in this combine and go, here's one for each club. But yeah, that ain't never going to happen, I don't think. But yeah, congrats to Millie and that on Bub coming on the way. Yeah.
Sorry, Brad.
It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so yeah, won't get to talk about it too much. Paul's given us some information. Colombian Sevens rep Maria Zuaga and Canadians Renee Gonzalez competed at the 2022 Commonwealth Games with the two female athletes chosen. That was one thing I saw about Vegas. The Americans were actually really interested in the fact that women were playing this sport. That was something that really intrigued them. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't the best example of a game for them to watch, to see the women play. But I did see a lot of people, myself included, say that it should have been Australia versus Kiwis in the women's game to be more competitive. But the NRL have come out and said that the New Zealand Rugby League couldn't afford the cost to send the team to Vegas, which is why they weren't selected. But yeah, we'll see what it is. This one might be a bit more interesting for you and me, but maybe no one else. Oh yeah, Simon also mentioned the Kiwis did get beaten by 50 points last time they played. That's true as well. So it's a gamble. You never know. I did see some people actually say just play State of Origin women over there instead, if they wanted it competitive. But yeah, next bit, mate. You might be excited. This may have passed you by, but Andrew Edgar was on a podcast this week, and he said that there is a new rugby league video game being released this year. How are you feeling about that, mate?
I like the sound of it. Yeah.
I have the perk of actually sitting at where I play. See if I pull the right one. Nope. This is great television. Look, I still have Rugby League 4 here.
Yeah, so do I.
Occasionally.
It's not,
it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's not the great, but it's it's got its own charm. It's the only rugby league online action you're going to get.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, and I know I'll buy it like I've bought every single one they've released.
Well, yeah, they keep failing to manage to do a decent one for rugby union, so good luck.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
Yeah, to be honest, we're going off topic, but I haven't played a rugby union one for a while. Richie and I and a few others used to play our rugby league and our rugby games religiously.
Yeah.
But yeah, be cool to see. When I would say they'll probably market it around end of year, hitting that Christmas market and grand final time and whatnot. Yeah, it would make more sense to me, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, fingers crossed it's at least okay.
It's playable.
I'll put a low bar on it. And then a bit of news I added today, mate. The NRL's confirmed that Friday night's game between the Dolphins and the Rabbits will be shifted to Combank Stadium due to the impact of Cyclone Alfred in southeast Queensland. So they got some bad weather out there and they've moved it. I've seen a lot of mixed feedback on it. Cody Nikorima's wife came out and said that she's 6 months pregnant and her husband shouldn't be shifted to go play a game. He should be home with her. I've seen others say it's their job. They got to go do it. It may sound callous. I don't really care. It's not my team. We're sitting here as fans that had our team living in Australia without friends and family for years. So 1 week away from family for this. I understand there are other systems, but the COVID situation was quite dangerous as well. But yeah, it is just a game. I think any team has any player in the teams, I guess, have the right to say, no, I don't want to play. I want to stay home. If they do. What that does to their future with said club is another story. But yeah, the NRL, they have an obligation, I guess, to ensure games are played. Yeah, and I don't actually know how bad this cyclone is. Paul will no doubt tell me.
No, I don't know. But look, I think, yeah, I mean, the situations like her, she's due a child, then fine, let that one player. But you shouldn't stop a whole game because one player's got his partner's about to have a kid.
Yeah. And Simon said he's glad there's still a game on Thursday and people spend way too much time with their families. That sounds more like something I would say. And yeah, 2 AFL matches have been cancelled because of Cyclone. That's probably why they've moved it. They're going, AFL are cancelling games. Let's move ours so we can steal some of their fan base. NRL's always thinking. So we'll see. I don't know how bad this thing's going to be. So hopefully everything's okay, despite the game being played elsewhere. You got any thoughts on it, Matt? Or
not really. I just hope the cyclone's not too bad, and there's not a whole lot of damage. But yeah, same as you, Brad. We spent a couple of seasons watching our team play their trade in another country. So yeah. It
might not sound very sympathetic, but I try to best times, but
it doesn't sound sympathetic. But we probably aren't. Yeah, exactly. That's because we're not.
Yeah. So before we get into signings and stuff, Sky, wonderful Sky, future sponsors of the show, no doubt. They decided they would only play 2 of the 4 games from Vegas for New Zealanders to watch. So the Super League, which we already knew wasn't going to be played at the time of our show last week, I assumed the women's game would be. But no, the women's game was not aired either. So we only have the results, and I didn't get to see much of either game. I got to see brief highlights. So Wigan defeated Warrington 48-24, which was to be suspected from the best NRL or the best Super League team and probably the best rugby league team in the world since they beat Panthers, And then the Jillaroos defeated the England women 90-4.
Yeah. So I didn't watch.
Simon said he watched the women's game in a way that isn't Sky friendly, but gave up on it.
I would have too. I didn't watch either game because we couldn't, but I saw the highlights of the Wigan game and some really nice tries scored there, but definitely would not waste my time with the Jillaroos game.
Yeah. Jacko said he's very disappointed Sky not playing the other games. I knew they wouldn't play the Super League because they don't have the rights to Super League, but we watch all the women's games, including the internationals, on Sky, so I assumed it would be the same. I'm sure there's some reason for it. I know during that time when that women's game on, they had it replay, so it wasn't like there was another sporting event that was taking over it, but it wasn't really much to watch anyway, so may have saved us. So we'll move into signings. I've only got two. Morgan Knowles from St. Helens has signed a 2-year deal to join the Dolphins, coming down to join as former coach. And Mitch Moses extended with the Eels until the end of 2029. Big deal. And they were very proud to announce that there's no clauses in this deal. So they got one. They got one of their big names without having to hand out yearly get out clauses. Your thoughts on those signings? I haven't seen a lot of Morgan Knowles, but
yeah, me neither. So I won't comment. But Mitch Moses is a good one for the Eels. That was very much needed retention. Pretty much the whole game revolves around him. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and this segues into our injury ward. Jacko's asked, Moses is injured, apparently true or false? He is apparently injured. It wasn't updated when I gave you the list, so I have no idea how long he's out for, but he is out. He wasn't named this week, and they didn't. I'm trying to see if they gave an actual official reason for why he's gone. All they're saying is he's battling soreness. So
that narrows it down.
Yeah, soreness from a previous injury. We're taking a cautious approach to ensure his foot heals properly and he can play his best football for the team. Okay. We'll continue to monitor his recovery and assess a return date next week. So he could be back next week, could be back in a few other weeks. Hammer's here, and he said round 3 is what the Aussie media is saying. So he's out because he's sore. Typical from the flat track bully, mate.
So Ronald Volkman, step up.
Yep. So Ronald Volkman stepped up. Other ones though, Case McLean from the Panthers. He got a Category 1 head knock after only lasting a few minutes in that game and forgetting the entire trip altogether. He may be okay for round 2. He's got the 11-day stand down. I think because they've got the break, it might be okay. Brian To'o from the Panthers, he didn't play round 1 with a hamstring tightness, which you never notice with all the dance moves he was doing.
He's fine, mate. He's fine.
He wanted the weekend off. He'll be fine for round 2. And then Sione Katoa is out for 4 to 5 months with a shoulder reconstruction.
Yeah, no good.
It's I'd say a big loss for the Sharks, but they looked okay without him.
It makes the Panthers win even more impressive, really. Hey, they lost Casey McLean pretty early on.
Yeah, and no To'o, and then all those big names they lost at the end of the year. Makes me a bit humble about my predictions about them. So, we'll go to Naughty Boy Corner. There's only 2. Both Raiders players. Xavier Savage, grade 2 dangerous contact, 1 to 2 matches. And Joseph Tapani, 2 to 3 matches with a grade 2 shoulder charge. I don't know if they'd done that because of the split round. I don't think they do the judiciary until the end of this round. So that's why I haven't got a specific date yet, because they're waiting for all the guys that are going to join them this weekend. But I think both are fair. Savage, do you think he should have been sin-binned during the game for what he did?
If you go off what was happening last year, then yeah, absolutely. But if I'm fine with it as long as that's how they're going to rule. But they won't. You'll see someone do the same thing on Cleary and they'll get sent off.
Yeah, I think from 2024, that was a sin bin. If this is the way they want to go and they've got a bit more leeway, as long as that leeway is a bit more consistent, so it's not just feeling like certain teams are protected and others aren't, then yeah, we may have to talk about it. But I guess it's probably more hurtful as a Warriors fan to see a guy that may or may not have been sin-binned a few minutes later get an 80-meter intercept try. Might be a bit of bias, but we'll probably get a lot more players joining them at the end of this weekend. But that was all we really had, so we may as well go into these Las Vegas games, mate.
You bet.
Starting with the Raiders defeating the Warriors 30-8.
Yep, 5-2 for the Raiders. Seb Chris got 2, Xavier Savage got 2, and Matthew Timoko, the backs, doing the job there for the Raiders. For the Warriors, Kurt Capewell and RTS, the only 2 try scorers.
Well, as I always do, we always talk about the winner first. So great performance from the Raiders here. They dominated the Warriors from start to finish and looked great with the ball in hand. Their second phase footy killing the Warriors. The offloads, I don't know how many times I yelled at my TV for them to wrap the ball. They were defensively strong too, shutting down most of the Warriors' attack. A great start to the 2025 campaign and showed that they are too good for the wooden spoon tag many Nos have given them, which Ricky Stewart wanted to remind everyone in the presser afterwards. Pointing fingers, saying all of you said we're going to be wooden spoon. We proved that we're not. But yeah, it was an impressive showing. I predicted a Warriors win, but I was always nervous. I did not think it would be a 22-point win to the Raiders. I thought maybe there might have been a try or two in it. But yeah, thoroughly deserved. There's no excuses you can bring up. Your thoughts on the Raiders?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I thought it was evident from quite early on. They seemed to have our number. They looked a lot more organized. They did to us what I felt we would do to them with the forward game. I thought they got the better of things there, winning the contact, which led to the offload game, as you pointed out, Brad. And they were very clinical with that, and they just had us. They just had us on skates all game, pretty much. Yeah, I was very impressed, but yeah, disappointed at the same time, obviously.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Warriors?
Nothing surprises me with this team. I felt like we had the team to do the business here. But we don't traditionally handle different occasions, whether they be milestone games or, in this case, Las Vegas. We don't traditionally handle those very well. But, yeah, I just thought we were disappointing across the board. Yeah, especially with the halves. I don't know if we've got the right formula there. And it's always going to take time after losing SJ, but... yeah, watching the game, I started feeling those losses. The Adam Fanua-Blakes, the Shawns, the Tohus. You could feel those losses watching that game.
Yeah. Before I go into my little bit, Jacko made a comment a little bit further up that, overhyped build-up before we left, followed by players being told to enjoy Vegas with sightseeing trips, etc., and minds not on the job. Yeah, I want to bring that up. There was a thing. We were I can't confirm it 100%, but I believe we may have been the only team in Vegas that had no player curfew. Webby basically said the boys As long as they turn up the next day and do their job, they can do whatever they want because they're not children, which I understand from an adult perspective, but as a professional athlete, no. So yeah, I think that played a big part. They were having a great time over there, which is I get it, but it's you're there. There's a lot of costs sending you over there. Do the job as well. Yeah, but they were a massive letdown for me. They looked slow. They lacked direction. The forwards were bullied all night, which saw the halves and backs struggle to create more opportunities. It's a narrower field, so you really need the forwards to be doing their job. And for some reason, even though they weren't doing the job, our backline wanted to keep going wide fast, which you can't do on a narrow field. And yeah, as you said, they have a habit of struggling on the big occasion. Whenever we get big milestones, they crumble. And it continued here, and a hell of a lot for them to work on for round 2. I know the traditional Warriors fans have already come out and asked for everyone's heads or telling them not to come back. We'll see. I think we need a few more games. But if how they played in this game, if that's even into that in round 2, I think there's troubles, and it's going to be a very depressing Wednesday for the next couple of months. Paul.
I was just going to point about the curfew thing. You shouldn't need a coach led curfew. These guys are supposed to know how to travel. They travel on a regular basis for Australia games. The same rules should apply. And if they weren't going to, then the senior player group should put everyone together and say, boys, this is how we behave. This is what's expected of us. It shouldn't be down to the coaches to impose a curfew. Yeah, there's lack of maturity on if that's what the case is, lack of maturity either on the leadership team or the players.
It's Vegas though, Paul. There's not a lot you can do in Canberra. No offense. So same as you don't have to worry about the Aussie boys getting into much trouble when they come to Auckland. But there's a lot of stuff. I know if you sent me to Vegas and said I had no curfew, I'd get in trouble. And Jacko, before we move on, he said Boyd's playing 7 in Cup this round. By round 6, I think Mets may return to 6 with Boyd at 7. Before I didn't get to see Boyd in a trial, that was my house pairing. I had Boyd at 7 and Mets at 6. Before a ball being kicked off, I felt like that was what would be best for the team. The New South Wales Cup team that's been named is stacked.
Rocco Berry's back.
Yeah, Rocco Berry's back. There's everyone, Bunty, Laban, all those guys. I think it's another one we don't get on Sky. You have to buy like a New South Wales streaming pass if you want to watch the New South Wales Cup games. I haven't bought that yet. I'm looking into it because we might get better performances out of New South Wales this year than first grade. So we want to watch some decent games. But yeah, that will be interesting to see how Tanner Boyd goes. Your player that stood out, Matt?
I think gone the same as you here, Brad. Very good reason to pick him. He was one of the better performers on my fantasy team, Xavier Savage.
Oh, see, I didn't have him in my. I'm not. I know we'll talk about it later about the fantasy, but I did not do well. But yeah, I picked Xavier Savage too. 2 tries, he looked good out there. He had that one little thing with the charge down of the kick that may or may not have been a sin bin or whatever, but that was like his only blemish. He was very busy all night and a constant threat. And yeah, Paul said Xavier Savage top fantasy was 69 points.
Nice.
Well done, Richie. Well done.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the last game of the round, or the round 0, I guess we call it. Yep. Panthers defeating the Sharks 28-22.
Yep, 5 tries to 4 in that one for the Panthers. Isaiah Yeo, Isaac Tango, Dane Laurie, Paul Alamotti, and Dane Laurie grabbed the game winner. For the Sharks, Jesse Ramey, Britton Nakora, Kale Iro, and Adam Fenor-Blake.
That one hurt, man.
You're doing this and doing that and everything.
Yeah. So I said Penrith and Sharks with the game of the round. Yes. It definitely was. It was a great contest in the Vegas showcase after 3 one-sided matches. Panthers were taken to the limit by the Sharks, but it was the normal solid performance we've grown to expect from the Panthers, really. Solid forward efforts and the combination between Yeo and Cleary. I think I might be the last one to the table here, but I think they know that as long as they have Yeo and Cleary, they can lose everybody else.
Yeah.
Keeping those two is what keeps this team going. But yeah, that combination between them just set everything up perfectly for the backs of plenty of scoring chances. The ability to have Dane Laurie on your bench for what happened was just it was perfect for the Panthers. Obviously not for Casey McLean, but to lose him like 2-3 minutes in and then be able to bring a guy like Dane Laurie on. It was perfect. And he hit the ground running for them. As you said, he got a double win. If I want to be negative for a bit, so I can make myself feel a bit better about not predicting them to make another grand final, they had a few too many errors and some poor lapses in defensive reads at times. But that will be ironed out in no time, you know. You're rolling your eyes. They had double-digit errors, which isn't a Penrith thing. So,
yeah, fair enough.
So they had more errors, 13-12. They missed more tackles, 35-22. A lot of the stats here would suggest that actually the Sharks should have won this, but the game is
we'll get controversy corner. The Panthers were helped to win this by a dodgy call by the ref in the final stages of the game. But your thoughts on the Panthers?
Penalties to 4. So again, they gave up more penalties overall in the game.
Very kind words you had there, Brad, for my captain and vice captain, Cleary and Yeo. Like you said, Brad, they weren't perfect, but you could just rinse and repeat and say the same thing every game for the last 5 years. As long as you got Cleary and Yeo there, they'll have a way of pulling things out of the fire. Yeo was massive, scored a nice try, a bit of footwork on Fanua Blake. Cleary pulling the strings. I think it was it one of I can't remember who ended up scoring it, but the chip kick just pinpoint off the inside of the foot. I didn't pick them for a grand final in our predictions because it'd just be boring doing that every year. But I think deep down, you know, if they're not there, they're going to be very close to being there again.
Yeah. And your thoughts on the Sharks?
They weren't far off. So, you know, everyone's quite high on them this year, me included. I think they'll still be that side. They went toe-to-toe with the Panthers, and I thought Trindle was probably the more dominant half. I feel like we didn't see a lot of Nico, but Aden was good in his club debut, as you'd expect. Yeah. Got a trademark try, wanting the ball in his hands when, you know, late in the game when the game's on the line. So that's good signs for them. But yeah, again, I think they're going to be a team that's competing very deep at the end of the year. Seeing them lose this didn't do any damage to that for me. Yeah.
Mostly the same as what you said. Hardy effort from the Sharks. A bit hard done by the shocking ref call in the dying stages, which led to that match-winning try where the apparent knock-on was missed. Not that they would have won if that didn't go, obviously, because the Sharks still would have had to score. But it was, I give them credit for completing for the whole 80. AFB, as you said, he showed the massive addition he is to the roster, and they have some serious firepower. They just need to work a bit on their execution, which I think is more deciding who is going to be that main man in the halves. Do they just say, Nico, we love you, but we're going to let Trindle lead the ship because he's doing it better? Or do you go, no, Nico, we need you to step up? I don't know. Nico did have moments, but he had some bad moments too. So It's about ironing out that in his week-to-week game. But yeah, if they get that execution sorted, I'm sure they're going to be sitting around that top portion of the ladder for most of the year, which we've come to expect. It's just if they can go that next step once they hit finals. But your player to stand out?
Again, I went same as you, mate. The guy is just an Iron Man, season on season, and it's almost like he's getting better. Isaiah Yo, yeah, he just does it all. Matt plays massive minutes, just grafts all day, never misses tackles, and yeah, he got a lovely try as well. So yeah, he's just that guy. They've got one in the forward and one in the backs, Cleary and Yo, and yeah, we already said, and as long as those two are there, they're so formidable.
Yeah, and Paul has put in the fantasy. Isaiah Yo and Adam Fanua-Blake both had 68 points. I had Isaiah Yo in my team before the round started, and I got rid of him to buy players other places, so I regret it. I do have Cleary, though. And you mentioned it today. We've got no NRL ladder to look at because only 2 games are played. So before we go into the tipping comp, which again only had 2 players, but you mentioned you want to show people fantasy scores because you're joined fantasy. Well done for joining fantasy and not telling me, so we don't have to be in the same comp because you're scared.
No, I'm happy to show my thing every week, mate.
Yeah, so we can do that. I don't know if anyone's interested, but you'll get a breakdown of who we're picking for our players to stand out because they'll be fantasy related. But we can do that if you send me a screenshot of your fantasy score at the end of the round. I can do one of mine and make a little slide for Paul to show. Give us something to fill in the time since we've got no Super League and Paul wants us to try to go longer this year with the show. So we've got to try to extend some ways.
He didn't actually say that, did he?
He said that. He wanted 2.5 hours at least.
Sign up to the supporters, and perhaps we can afford the extra server space to save all these shows. That's an extra hour that perhaps going to be doing this.
But yeah. So yeah, I'll work in that. I don't know how it's going to look, or how it's not even like I'm good at fantasy. I know you're not.
It's just a thing for us to be competitive. Yeah,
we're not even in a competition against each other, though.
Yes, we are, though. If we show our score here, we're in competition with each other every week.
Did you join the Warriors one?
No.
I'm in it every year for some. I must have joined it years ago. Hold on, I'm just trying to look. Yeah, there's a Warriors official.
Oh, okay.
One, but I'm in 3 leagues. So we'll see. So we'll go on to our tips. So after begging, and Simon said, "What's this fantasy about Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings?" Fantasy
we're just nerds deep down.
I'm not going to lie. I spent all this weekend before the games kicked off with spreadsheets and all sorts trying to figure out what players I was putting in, and it didn't work. I failed everywhere. But yeah, so we ended up with 11 people joining, down from last year. I think we had 14, but gives us more a chance to win. Unfortunately, there's a guy in between us, though, that you know a bit about in 9th place.
Yes, that's my son. That's my son. My son, Mac. He's 14 years old. And he's very confident he's going to take us both out, Brad. So we've got to do it. We've got to do what we can to finish above him.
Yep. If he starts going too well, I'm the boss of it, so I'll just kick him out. It'll be fine.
Yeah, fair enough. I support that.
But yeah, so obviously there's still a few more games to go, so there's not a lot. But at the moment, we've got the boy from SMB, ACT Hellcat, and Simon all on perfect, 2 from 2. The rest, or most of us, are 1 from 2. And then you and Hammer, 2 people that do a show every week, 0 from 0, 0 from 2. I looked at my picks and I know I'm going to be in trouble later on. I picked some doozies, so I might be at the bottom at the end of the round. But yeah, I thought we may as well put it up so we see who's involved. Bjorn, he's in, and he said Richie's in 5 and 4. Yeah, Bjorn's 6. He's above us at the moment, but we're all on the same. It'll be fine. But yeah, so we'll have a better indicator next week when we bring it up again. But we'll move into questions, mate. We've answered everything as normal. I still need to think about yours because you only just gave it to me. So I'll go to you first. After the loss in Vegas, if you're in charge, would you make any changes to the Warriors side for round 2? And if so, what are they?
No, probably nothing that's not forced.
Yeah,
I'd be sticking true. You gotta at least for the first couple of weeks, I think, give the team a bit of rope to work things out. But I was very much watching that game before the game, thinking, yeah, Metcalf looked good in the trials, and then at halftime, pretty much had hit the panic button. And was thinking, no, he's a 6. He's a running 6. We need a 7.
Trying to call Sean.
Yeah. But no, I don't think I'd be making any knee-jerk reactions just yet. But I wouldn't be giving too much rope, put it that way. If the results don't start looking better, you got to start doing something.
Yeah, I think in my review that I did on Monday, I think I said the only change I would do was I wouldn't do the pre-game switch that Webby did, where he took Aaron to the bench and moved people around. I'd keep Aaron starting lock because I feel like that stuffed up the bench rotation, which I didn't even talk about. We only used 7 interchanges and none of them were correct.
Yeah, didn't like it.
Webby still doesn't know how to use a bench.
He waited way too long for the 2 young bulls. Yeah.
And I think half of that problem is Jackson Ford. Jackson Ford, he knows, can play big minutes, so it messes everything up. So my only change was dropping Jackson and bringing Bunty in, because then you actually have guys that you know the timings and you can just switch and change as need be. And Jacko, I love him, but he's got a few errors in him, and he's not really that guy you need out there when you're losing like Barnett and Fish. He's not that. Where I think if you're taking Barnett and Fish off and you bring on like a Bunty and a Dimitrik, I feel like it's going to help, as opposed to just going, we're taking them off, we'll keep Jackson out there. He's not going to churn the meters. So, but yeah, or if you want to keep Jackson, maybe send Capewell away and have him out there. I don't know. But yeah, it's too early. Yeah, if you keep changing every week because things aren't working, things will never work. And we'll.
Do you prefer him in the middle or on an edge? Do you feel like he gets almost too much ball when he's playing in the middle?
I think so. I prefer him on an edge when as long as he's not involved in one of those lines where we get our tries taken away. But yeah, I feel like in the middle, I would much prefer him on the edge and make Murata a middle if you wanted to go that way, turning one of them into a middle. But
because he did get found out a couple of times on defense up through the center too.
Well, that one where Starling got that big run because he had his back to the attack. But
yeah, I don't want to heat crap on him, but yeah,
no,
I agree with you with the Bunty thing. I just think it helps out balance a bit.
Yeah, and Jacko said Webster's selections of bench use have been a worry, but unless he's learned from last season, they are becoming a serious concern. It's one of the main things I complained about last year in my reviews, and even the year before when we were doing well, I was still complaining about his use of the bench. It had it was a bit like what's his name, Kidwell. Yeah, the old Kiwis Kidwell, where Kidwell forgot Jason Tomalolo was on the bench and didn't use him again, and then he went and played for Tonga. So,
what about Chance? Chance is a bit off on the weekend, eh?
I want to give him another go. I feel like it's a bit like Warriors versus Eels with Manu Vatapai, the worst game on the planet for any winger, and he played the next week and did better. I think if they had dropped him, we never would have seen him again. I don't think Chance is that mindset, but I want to see him have another go and see if he can improve. I think, to be honest, that penalty he got when he jumped and he put his foot out, that changed everything for him, because after that he seldom tried to jump for the ball. He was staying on the ground, and that led to a try for the Raiders. So I don't know if he got rattled or what, but give him another week, see what happens.
Do you see that being you see him a long-term thing though, or are the drums starting to beat for Tane?
Well, again, before
Roger.
Roger's our winger.
Tane for me.
Yeah. Before the season started and before Dallin got injured, my team was going to be Tane at fullback, Chans in the centres, Roger on the wing. That was how I had it. I felt that was better for everyone because Tane has to be out there, and admittedly he was struggling on the wing. He is very little. There was that try Sebastian Chris got. He did his job. He wrapped him up in the tackle, but he just got dragged towards the sideline try line because he's a little itty bitty man. But yeah, he's got attack. We'll have to see. Again, you can have all these great players, but if they don't know where to put them or how to use them, if they put them on the bench, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, your question to me, mate.
My question to you, Brad, the Las Vegas thing from a Warriors supporter point of view, and our club's involvement. How did you see it? Would you want to see it again, or do you think maybe the experience has hindered our start to the year?
I loved the experience from what I could see. I was feeling all sorts of feelings of jealousy and FOMO, seeing people that I know that had gone. And it was like, man, it looks so cool. But as I said to you and Ruin Hammer after that game, I'm happy I didn't spend all that money to go and watch our team lose by 22 points because of how I react after the Warriors lose. Being in Vegas, it doesn't matter where I'd be miserable. I wouldn't want to talk to anybody. It's a big investment in a team that's hard to bet on. So it would depend who we're playing. But yeah, like Simon said, if the Warriors were to go back, it's further down the line. I feel like every team should get a chance to go to Vegas before you start getting double ups.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably wouldn't say no. Like if the Warriors or Vodafone or One New Zealand, whatever they called, if they had said, mate, do you want to come? We'll take you to Vegas. I wouldn't have said no. Wouldn't go, nah, bugger that. It's just a lot of money. Especially when there's little ladies that want things in their life that cost money. That are deemed more important to them than a league game. So, yeah, I wouldn't say no, but I think it's a few years away. But yeah, it looked like a great experience, and yeah, my Jacko said something that I said after before the games. Let's start saying now. Jacko said he was never keen on the Vegas trip due to the travel. That was my concern from the get-go. We were already doing like double or triple the travel of every other team. This was adding to it. But yeah, I still wouldn't say no to the experience, maybe, but it would be a few years away, and depending who we played. But yeah, that's it. So we may as well look at the rest of the round, mate.
Cool.
And say who we're picking. Do you remember who you picked?
Yeah, believe so.
Cool. So Thursday night we've got the Roosters and the Broncos. Who'd you go with?
I went Broncos in that one. Yeah,
I went Broncos too. I think the Roosters have got a lot of people out, and the Broncos we both predicted. Would you go? Bjorn said, if you went, would you take your missus? Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I
keeping your first option.
Well, no, I tried it. I told you. I talked to her and said we should go to Vegas we can watch the Warriors, and we could go to one of those chapels and get married. You know, two birds, one stone. And
Didn't
she
you
said,
get married on the pitch?
"What? No, no. I know
someone
someone proposed.
Oh, okay.
On the pitch, but there was a competition from One New Zealand where they sent a couple over to watch the Warriors and get married. Congrats to them. But yeah, she saw right through it, man. She said, "You just want to go to the Warriors game. You don't give two shits about the whole marriage thing." So yeah, that stopped my trip to Vegas. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I probably would for that reason. If that wasn't on the table, then no, I would go with someone else. My old flatmates who you know, Richie, they wanted to go to this one because it's my 40th next week.
Next week,
and they're like, we should go to Vegas for your 40th. And I said, are you going to pay? And they said no. And then that's when it ended. So I was hoping it was going to be a birthday present, but no. So yeah, I may take her, may not. Depends if she's watching this and if I've got in trouble or not. But yeah, so I went Broncos. We both picked them to go well this year. Friday night, first game, Tigers Knights. Who'd you go with?
I went Tigers.
Oh, okay, I feel better because I went Tigers as well.
Oh, okay.
I looked after. I was expecting to be like three quarters in a row.
They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it.
I feel it.
You really are trying to throw my money away, aren't you? Jeez.
They're going to do it. We're going to think of the money. We're going to, I think, are they favourites at the moment?
No.
They're favourites when I did my tips.
Tigers are favourites for any games they play. The Tigers are $1.15. The Knights are $1.72.
That's
it's
almost
not crazy,
favourites.
Admittedly, but they are. They're not the longest odds by any stretch of imagination. But yes.
I feel if there's any time the Tigers are going to get a win, it's going to be an ambush in the first round.
Yeah.
They've got a better team. I'm hopeful, and they're at home. I'm probably completely wrong. It's the one pick I'm looking at that I've done that I go, I'm probably got this one really, really wrong. But Richard's done it too, so it means we'll be wrong together.
Well, this next one is $1.95 for the Roosters. Rabbitohs. Or $1.87 for the Dolphins. So this one's very close as far as the TAB is concerned.
Yeah, I've gone Dolphins.
Richie?
Dolphins. Yeah. There's meant to be a cyclone and stuff up there, and dolphins are great in water. It just makes sense.
Very good.
Okay, next.
Then on Saturday, we got Dragons, Doggies. I've gone Doggies because I don't pick the Dragons.
I've gone the Red V, despite Brad.
Doggies are away. Let's remember last year, it was a home form that got them in the top bit. So there we go.
They're going to do the opposite this year. I should have made that my prediction. They're going to win all their away games, lose all their home ones.
That's your hot take, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, and Bjorn said games we moved to Sydney. Yeah, no. We talked about it in the news. I was just trying to make it funny. It wasn't a good one. Then next game on Saturday, Manly Cowboys. I've gone with Manly.
Yep, I went Manly as well.
Yep. You got any stats on that one, Paul?
So Manly $1.60, $1.46. The Cowboys $2.75. Yeah. So one of the one of the kind of more obvious picks. The Sea Eagles.
You watch the Cowboys whoop them now. It's the fun of round one. We never bloody know.
Well, this next one then is a dead cert. If you both haven't gone Storm, you need your head seen to.
Yeah.
I'm going to hurt you here. I'm going to hurt you here, Paul.
No Mitch Moses, surely.
I've gone
Storm.
Melbourne.
Yeah, Storm.
Oh, yeah.
I went Melbourne before Mitch Moses was announced injured.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, and Bjorn said sorry he's late getting the house ready for the cyclone. If you've done your house, can you go help Cody Nikorima's wife? She's in trouble at the moment. She wants someone to help her. I had the Storm picks. I picked them to win the whole thing. I'm not going to pick them to lose round one. And I think, is their record still intact?
They never lose round one.
They never lose round one. So
ever.
Yeah, the TAB's got the $1.10. The Eels, the longest odds all weekend at $7.
Yeah, I think there was some
$7.
I looked somewhere. Their odds just shot up at the moment they announced Moses wasn't playing. They were still the underdogs, but it wasn't as bad. But then the moment they said Mitch wasn't playing, it just shot out.
The Storm have not lost a round one game since 2001.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So if Richie hadn't spent all his money on a house, he would have put it on the Storm tonight this weekend.
100%.
Yeah. So anything else you guys want to add? We're finished because there wasn't much to talk about with only 2 games. Get ready for a big one next week, though, Paul. You'll be looking forward to it.
So out of the 6 games, you guys have agreed on 5 of them, which means they are 5-game multi.
Nice.
The $2 returning $17.43 or 0.
All right.
See, and my betting was bad in the weekend, guys. I did 2. I did a multi and then I did a 1-gamer. So I did a multi Warriors and Panthers to win, and then I put money on the Sharks. So the Sharks lost. The Sharks were paying great money, and I was like, I think they can do it, but I'm not sure. And then because the Warriors lost, and I lost that multi as well. So I lost both. Gamble responsibly, people. Don't do a Brad. So anything else you guys want to add?
No,
send everyone home. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us on the standoff with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me, Richie, and thanks, Paul.
And it's a Wednesday, folks. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Not just any.
What did I say?
You just said 8 p.m. Could be any day of the week. But Wednesday, 8 p.m.
Okay, sorry.